Want to dive into the chaotic mind of a narcissist? Then pierce through the dazzling mask of arrogance and their masterful manipulations. You'll be shocked to discover what lies beneath: a cold, emotional abyss, a shredded ego desperate to be stitched back together by suffocating others. They don't truly live, they merely exist through the admiration or fear they can extract from those around them, especially from the naive souls who offer love freely. But here's the secret. When you lock your emotions tight, when you refuse to play the puppet in their twisted theater, you're not just cutting off their oxygen, you're shaking the very foundation of the illusion they built. And what happens when a narcissist is forced to face their true emptiness? That's the question that should make you curious, isn't it? Subscribe to the channel or drop a comment. I'll reveal more dark corners than you ever expected. 1. Unmasking the narcissist, the shiny shell and the black hole within. Behind their grandiose facade and perfectly staged manipulations, the narcissist is not what you think. They're not unshakable titans of confidence. They're architects of illusion. A shimmering sandcastle built on quicksand, ready to collapse at the slightest gust of indifference. Picture this: every word, every action is part of a performance designed to hide a terrifying truth. An inner void, cold and endless, where their fragmented self screams to be filled. But what do they fill it with? Not self-awareness or compassion, but control. A warped form of power they impose on circumstances, on others, and especially on those kind enough to care. Look deeper and you'll see narcissists don't live from within. They are emotional parasites feeding off attention, praise, even conflict. They themselves ignite. External validation is their oxygen. Without it, they suffocate. A compliment is a drug, an admiring gaze, the blood that pumps through their veins. But what happens when you cut off that oxygen, when you step off their stage, refuse to be the victim or the audience to their distorted script? That's when you ignite their deepest panic. Indifference, the simplest yet sharpest weapon, is the dagger that pierces the fragile core they hide behind. They're not afraid of criticism, not even hatred, because even your anger means they still matter to you. What terrifies them is being ignored, left in silence, where they are finally forced to confront the black hole they've spent their entire lives running from. Here's the fascinating part. When you walk away, you're not just protecting yourself. You're exposing the truth they cannot bear to admit. They are not invincible. They are puppets of their own illusion. Each time you refuse to react, you not only cut off their lifeline, you shake their entire fabricated reality and expose the cracks they've desperately tried to seal with manipulation. But will they collapse completely? Or will they hunt for their next target to keep the show going? These are the questions we'll explore in this deep dive into narcissistic psychology. If you want to understand how narcissists operate, and more importantly, how to protect yourself from their grip, subscribe now and leave a comment below. I want to hear your story. Have you ever faced a narcissist? Let's expose these shadows together. 2. Indifference is a fatal blow when you sever the narcissist's strings of control, when you stop reacting, when you no longer flinch at their cutting words or get pulled into their cycle of manipulation. You're not just walking away from the game, you're delivering a lethal strike to the narcissist's very core. Understand this: indifference is not a passive act. It is a weapon, sharp, unrelenting, and far more devastating than any accusation or argument. Why? Because it forces them to confront their worst nightmare, the reality that they are not as important as they believe themselves to be. Every time you shrug, every time you turn away, you're not only refusing to be the puppet in their emotional theater, you're tearing through the curtain that hides their crumbling ego, exposing a truth they've spent their whole life running from. They are nothing without your attention. Picture this: the narcissist, a self-proclaimed director, stands center stage screaming their script, only to find an empty auditorium. No applause, no boos, no sound at all. That silence? It's not just the absence of noise, it's the void that devours the illusion of their power. They need you, your anger, your tears, even your submission to feel real. But when you choose indifference, you don't just step out of the spotlight, you burn down the stage. And this isn't about punishing them. No, it's about freeing yourself. You reclaim your power by refusing to hand it over, and in doing so, you let them fall headfirst into the pit of their own emptiness. But don't be mistaken, indifference is not easy. It demands that you sever the emotional cords they've so masterfully tied around you. Cords woven from guilt, fear, and even misplaced compassion. Narcissists are experts at making you feel like you must respond, must engage, must prove something. But here is the truth you must hold on to. You owe them nothing. No explanation, no glance, not a single drop of your emotional energy. And when you realize this, you don't just protect your soul, you send a powerful message. Their world may collapse, but yours still stands. 3, emotional detachment is liberation, reclaiming power from the narcissist. Emotional detachment is not about sitting in silence, letting things slide like a weak, passive observer. Don't get it twisted. It is an active stance, a bold declaration of inner strength, where you wrest your control back from the narcissist's slippery grasp. Think of it as severing an invisible chain, the chain they've used to tie you to their chaotic emotional vortex. But here's the brutal truth you must face. Don't hold your breath for a sincere apology or a moment of accountability. Narcissists aren't wired for that. Their fragile egos are encased in an impenetrable wall of arrogance where remorse is a foreign concept. So when you stop seeking validation from them, you're not giving up. You're laying the first brick on your path to healing. This detachment demands a rare kind of strength, the ability to let go without closure. To a narcissist, every interaction is a chess match. They win as long as you keep playing, whether you're arguing, begging, or just hoping. But when you walk away from the board, you dismantle the entire game. This isn't easy because they've planted seeds of self-doubt in you. Am I too sensitive? Am I the bad one? That's their trap, getting you to question yourself instead of questioning them. But here's the truth you must embrace. You don't need their permission to feel worthy. Emotional detachment is your way of declaring that your value isn't defined by anyone's gaze or words, least of all someone who feeds on draining the light out of others. 4.4. When you walk away, you reclaim control. When you stop seeking validation and withdraw from the relationship, you don't just reclaim control. You throw the narcissist into a disoriented state. They lose their narcissistic supply, the emotional energy you once provided. In the world of a narcissist, there is no real love, only possession and reflection. They don't see you as an independent human being with emotions, thoughts, and intrinsic worth. To them, you are a mirror, existing solely to affirm their delusions of superiority and significance. And when you walk away, that mirror shatters. With no reflection left to paint their self-image, they spiral into an identity crisis, something they never truly had a grip on to begin with. The truth is this: narcissists don't know who they are unless someone is reacting to them. Your anger, your love, your attempts to explain or beg, these all confirm to them that they still have power. But when you withdraw in silence, when you stop reacting and stop giving them your emotions, they are left with nothing to cling to. They cannot manipulate someone who is no longer emotionally dependent, no longer under their influence. What makes walking away a pivotal moment is not just the severing of interaction. It is the restoration of your inner authority. While entangled with a narcissist, you may have forgotten who you once were. Every thought, every decision was subtly distorted through manipulation. But once you step out, the broken pieces within you start to realign. You no longer crave approval from the one who belittled you. You begin to see yourself again, not through their warped lens, but through your own clarity. Reclaiming control is not just a personal act. It is a declaration of dignity. It's a bold assertion that no one else defines your worth. And for the narcissist, this is a deep wound because their power was never inherent. It only existed because you gave it to them. You take it back, they are left with nothing but the emptiness they've always tried to escape. And that is the most painful verdict they can't outrun. 5, the narcissist's deepest pain. What hurts a narcissist the most isn't being hated, it's being forgotten. Your absence forces them to confront the very thing they've spent their lives avoiding, themselves. And your silence, not your criticism, delivers the sharpest blow. To a narcissist, existence depends on being seen, or more precisely, being reacted to. They don't crave love, they crave attention, whether positive or negative. Hate them, they still win, because hate means you're still thinking about them, still caught in their web. But when you go silent, when you quietly walk away and build a life that no longer revolves around them, that is what they cannot tolerate. Your indifference is like pulling the plug on their emotional life support. From a psychological standpoint, this is understandable. Narcissists have no stable sense of self. Their identity is not formed internally, but through reflection in the eyes of others. They need to see themselves through your gaze. So when you disappear, you don't just leave their life, you take with you the very mirror they relied on to sustain their illusion. They don't know how to exist without someone to project their false self onto. That's why your silence becomes the most powerful and quiet form of resistance. No need to screen, no need to expose. Just by stepping away, you send a message they cannot twist. You are no longer important. And for the narcissist, that is the most agonizing denial of their existence. Your forgetting carries another power. It breaks the cycle of manipulation. As long as you react through anger or pain, you're still playing a role in their drama. But when you're no longer the audience, no longer the actor, the entire production collapses. The narcissist is left alone with a hollow self. No structure, no anchor. And this is the truth they dread the most. Without you, they don't know who they are. No one left to control, no one to manipulate. They are forced to face the void within, a void they've spent a lifetime avoiding. Your silence isn't just a cut, it's a mirror. And when the narcissist looks into it, all they see is the unbearable truth. They never truly had power. You did. The moment you let go, you claimed it back, when you're no longer their mirror. When you stop being the mirror that reflects them, the glittering illusion the narcissist worked so hard to build begins to crack, revealing a cold, hollow void within. The very place where false confidence once reigned like a king without a crown. They need you, not for love, not for genuine connection, but as a living tool, a polished mirror to reflect the flawless image they painted in their minds. They lack the capacity to create an identity on their own. They cannot stand on their own feet without someone by their side applauding, affirming their existence. You, with all your silent sacrifices, the tears you swallowed, unknowingly became the pedestal that held up their fragile ego. But when you decisively step away from that role, when you refuse to keep fading into the background so they can shine, what happens? They are forced to face the most terrifying naked truth about themselves, a truth they've spent their entire lives running from. Your pain, the deep wounds carved by their razor-sharp words, their calculated manipulation, and their glacial indifference can no longer be dismissed. When you're no longer there to blame, no longer there to cling to, the scars they etched into your soul become the clearest mirror of who they truly are. They are not powerful or invincible as they pretend to be. They are weak, hollow, and dependent on the validation of others to hide their deepest fear, the fear of being forgotten, the fear of being seen for what they truly are, nothing more than a shell wrapped in false grandeur. And when you walk away, that shell shatters, leaving them alone in the ruins of their own delusion. But look deeper. Your value was never in propping someone else up, never in silencing yourself so they could feel important. Your worth lies in the strength you found when you broke the chains, when you rose from the ashes of manipulation and said, enough. They may scream, blame, or try to pull you back with sweet promises or venomous threats, but all of it is just the desperate echo of someone who's lost the only thing that ever made them feel alive. You. The truth is, a narcissist never loved you. They only loved the image of themselves they saw in your eyes. And when you take away that mirror, they are left with nothing but the emptiness they've always tried to fill with the suffering of others. Leaving them is not just your escape, it is your declaration that you deserve more. You are not a tool, you are not a perpetual victim in their cruel game. You are the fire that smoldered through the darkest nights, and now, without their grip holding you down, you can blaze. Brilliant and free, they lost you, but you found yourself. And that is a victory they will never comprehend. 7, you don't need revenge. Only recovery. You don't need revenge to make them suffer. The act of healing, of living in alignment with your true values and building a life without them is already the heaviest price they'll pay, because your joyful existence becomes undeniable proof that their power was never real. The truth is this: narcissists don't fear retaliation, they expect it. Revenge keeps you locked in their orbit, feeding the emotional tether, even if through negativity. They don't need your love. They just need your reaction. Every tear, every agonized message, every bitter word is proof to them that they still matter. But when you let go of the urge to retaliate, when you choose healing over vengeance, you don't just break the cycle of control, you tear from their hands the most terrifying weapon, the ability to define who you are. Narcissists manipulate you by making you believe you are small, flawed, and never enough. They distort reality, plant seeds of self-doubt, and see your collapse as validation of their control. But when you rise, when you begin to believe in your worth again, everything they ever said about you becomes irrelevant. They no longer control the narrative. You do. True recovery isn't forgetting the pain. It's recognizing that you are no longer defined by it. It's when you look at the scar and see strength, not weakness. And that is what terrifies a narcissist. Because if you can heal without them, thrive without their presence, then everything they did, the devaluing, the control, the gaslighting, becomes meaningless. Their power never truly existed. You only thought it did. You don't need to win in their eyes. You only need to win in your own, with peace, independence, and a life unshackled by the fear and memories of someone who once hurt you. And the moment you touch that freedom, you've done what they'll never be capable of. Live authentically without needing to dominate or be validated by anyone. Recovery is the noblest response to pain. It's a quiet yet piercing declaration. I once fell, but I no longer live in your shadow. I've returned to the light of who I truly am. And that light, radiant, proud, and free, is something the narcissist will never touch. In the end, when you close that painful chapter, you're not just walking away from the narcissist. You're putting an end to the former version of yourself, the one who once curled in their shadow. They may continue wandering the maze of illusion, seeking another mirror to reflect their false self, but you have risen above it all. From the ashes of that suffering, you are reborn, strong, luminous, and holding this priceless truth. Your true worth never needed the validation of someone incapable of seeing it. They lost you, the one light that ever made their world shimmer, but you found freedom, self-respect, and a horizon wide enough to hold everything you were meant to be. This isn't just an ending, it's the beginning of the life you've always deserved.